you know, we're short on water. In the middle of the night, we had these things called camel spiders that they're like a hairless tarantula on amphetamines, you know. I mean, technically they're not a spider, um, but they jump, you know, and he's pretending like he's eating one. You don't really get to see the guys, but you get a bite from them. They're kind of like a bulldog. They grip, and it gets infected. A lot of times you need IV antibiotics. So I'd be sitting there at night, feel something crawling, and they could swat it, then find out it was a cockroach this big or something. And I'm debating now, this is the water I'm going to brush my teeth with tomorrow. Do I really want to wash it, or do I just, you know, just that misery? You're living like a dog. You feel like a dog eventually, you know. But there was some kind of camaraderie because nobody smelled any better than the other guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody had special privileges. Everybody was in the same thing. So, like in the barracks, you know, there's all these guys that are, you know, pretty prissy and pull their rank. When you're out in the forward, you know, base camps, you know, everybody's pretty accommodating to one another, and because everybody's having it rough, people don't tease each other. You know, like a soldier in the barracks, if he leaves his weapon for a second while he's doing this, somebody will snatch it to try and get him in trouble to one-up him, you know. There, the guy, hey, dude, you forgot your weapon, you know. So it's kind of a different culture when you're in the forward areas, trying to just exist, survive, and help each other out.
Have you kept in contact with a lot of people you met?
Not too much on that first one. Jones was the main one. You saw why. He's got a sense of humor, and we ran into each other this, you know, fifth deployment. Williams got out. What sucked for him is he came back home. They made him stay there the whole time, despite getting the Purple Heart. Then he comes back home. Then they sent him to Lackland Air Force Base, where my son is, doing basic training, to go through his medical discharge, and it took like 3 months. And he's an LA boy, so he's like, why am I sitting in Texas for 3 months, you know, just because I got wounded, you know. So the major I was with, she eventually got out too. She had some political problems with the commander. It was kind of ugly. There's a lot of problems there, but it's a little political for this video.
Would you say your war experiences have changed your life in any way?
Well, one of the things is I'm not the only one impacted. My family's impacted. You know, when I go, remember my wife was working the ER, doing 12-hour shifts as a nurse, and she's running home. She's working nights. She's coming home, trying to get the kids fed and off to school, and you know. One day she's coming home and she realized she's running low on gas. She comes into the gas station and realized she left her wallet in the other car. So she's gone on the causeway from Sacramento, because she worked at UC Davis Med Center in Sacramento. She pulls off on the little frontage road out west of Mace, and she kind of, it's 6 in the morning, no traffic, so she kind of cruises through the stop sign there. Sure enough, Officer Parsons, California Highway Patrol, pulls her over, and she's like, oh shit, I don't have a wallet, you know. And so she explains, yeah, I don't have a, he gave her $10 to go get some gas. Talking about a cool guy. I was so, you know, I heard that story when I got home. It just bring tears to me. So I write him a letter. He's up at the Woodland, you know, CHP station. You know, if you take pole line up, you hit it, you nearly hit it. And the story doesn't end there. I write him this letter and send him back the $10. Well, she's on duty in the ER one day, and sure enough, some highway patrolman bringing a drug from the Woodland thing, and she goes, well, is Officer Parsons still working there? You go, yeah, he is. How do you know him? Oh, you're her. And she, her what? Your husband's letters in our briefing room. Posted on the wall. So I guess they don't get that many attaboys, but you know, I wrote something on this, you know, fact that they were taking care of my family. I appreciated that, because it's a, you know, a little concern, and especially that first time there was almost no contact, no mail, you know, no letters going out really, you know, no mail coming in hardly at all, and when we take the wounded down to the hospital, we get on these field phones, and out of 20 phone calls, one would go through, you know, morale phone calls are not priority. All the combat communications and stuff has priority, so that would go through 'em.
If you were to do this all over again, would you want to go to the war? I mean, if you knew what you were getting into.
It's I guess it is what it is, you know. I mean, I think nobody knows what they're getting into, and nobody. The one thing philosophically, Einstein said, you know, when the nukes came out, you know, he had something to do with that. So the reporters were all over him about, aren't you worried bad people get these things, nuclear weapons, and that, you know, we'll go in the toilet? And his comment was, he wasn't worried about the evil people. He was worried about the people who would do nothing. So, you know, I look at this whole thing and I realize that me going there, putting the stick in the hornet's nest might make things worse or not, but I choose to do rather than to not do, because if something happens and I did nothing, I think I feel worse. Even if I did the wrong thing, the fact that I tried, I think counts for something. And that's kind of how I see it, regardless. And, you know, once you're in the military, you don't get to choose which battles you fight or where you go or what, you know, that's chosen for you, and you got to make the best of it as best you can.
Do you have any closing thoughts or reflections on your experiences?
I know I'm heading off to Afghanistan, and that's I'm a little more apprehensive about that than I've been in April, because I haven't been there. I don't know the game, you know. And it's when you now it's been going on for longer than Iraq, so it's a pretty established theater. But you know, getting around there is different. It's all by helicopter, and you got to hang out. It's a big annoying thing. Wait for a week at one base to get helicoptered up to another base because you're not high priority and all that. So I'm a little nervous about that. And you know, our unit may be, you know, going away while I'm gone, and then I don't know which unit I'll be attached to. And one thing, I've never deployed with the unit I'm attached to, really, you know. It's kind of sad. The Air Force, the way their medical corps, they send active duty more, and they send the colonels and the high-ranking guys, because their theory is that, you know, those guys are administrators anyways. They're not seeing patients, so it won't impact patient care on the base. The Army active duty medical corps is just the opposite. The colonels and lieutenant colonels do whatever they can to get the hell out of deployments, send the poor little captains and the guys with the new families who make dirt, you know. And so because the difference was the Air Force was doing 4-month deployments and the Army was doing 1-year deployments, and sometimes longer. So, you know, I was like in my second deployment at Longstuhl, Germany, which, if you're active duty Army, a 3-year tour with your family in Europe, you can guess it was, you know, the real prima donnas that made it there. And so none of those guys had been downrange, and the war had been going on for 3 years, and I'm kind of like, now you're active duty, aren't you? And you've never been deployed anywhere, and I'm on my second deployment. I'm kind of trying to figure this one out, you know. So, you know, you don't need to join the military, though, to find that things in life are unfair. The thing about the military is it's more, a lot of times than not, blatantly unfair. And you got to be really wanting to serve. You know, you want to be able to, despite the unfairness, rise above it and serve and do something. You know, make the best of it you can. And that's the thing. Some people get in the military, they get all wound up because it ain't fair, blah, blah, blah. My major left the military because of some of those issues, the one that I deployed with. You know, but, you know, I think you got to think of it as a privilege to serve and do what you can and be able to kind of get around the bullshit and be able to do the best you can despite it.
Thank you very much.
Would you mind just if you showed us your uniform
okay.
just very quickly?
Sure. Let's see if I got that. Yeah, I can't really identify those ribbons without this.
It's fine.
Yeah. The top one, the little maroon one, I'm always fooled because I got other guys running around wearing these maroon ribbons, and one of them's like a good conduct medal. So I'm always thinking, wow, man, that's a high award. All these guys have this meritorious now. So that one I got for that time I was doing the work of the 3 psychiatrists. Let's see if I can get the right one. The second one, the ARCOM, pretty much you went overseas, you didn't kill anybody, you didn't screw around. Almost everybody gets that green one. That's the top left one there. So I got it 3 times. The Army Achievement Medal is the one next to it with the 2 leaves. I guess that's the second time. Let's see. National Defense is the yellow and red one. And that